Can you comment on pork omega-3 ratios? There seems to be 24 to 1. Different cuts of pork have different ratios, pretty much. I've actually done videos on this covering all the different omega ratios, and sometimes the foraging ones have have worse ratios than even some of the ones that are actually being fed scraps. So it's not a perfect thing, and it can vary from different parts of the pork and all that, but it's irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant, because you are taking omega-3s. You don't need a lot anyway, but you're taking omega-3s from the pork and you're converting them. And you don't need to convert them. You take EPA and DHA and you don't have to worry about conversion. You actually need more omega-6. In some tissue types around the body, it can be 11 to 1 or more. So we actually have more omega-3. Even in the brain, the PUFA part of the brain, it's actually slightly more omega-6 and slightly less omega-3. So it's, this whole fallacy that it's all DHA, wrong. That it's all omega-3, what they usually say, EPA and DHA in the, when we're looking at the sort of brain or stuff like that. Most of it's there as PUFA. No, it's actually large parts of it are omega-6 as well. And all the actual cells, in order to basically for the immune system and for, your prostaglandins and all these sort of things. So all these sort of things that are involved in dealing with inflammation in the body and dealing with repair mechanisms and all that have a lot to do with omega-6s. What do you think athletes sometimes for injuries take arachidonic acid as a supplement? That's an omega-6. They take it specifically for those purposes. So it's all this nonsense. Omega-6 or omega-3 ratios are only valid in veganurized diets, in people that are eating plants, because the moment you take, there's two problems when you're eating plants. One problem is you've got competition between linoleic acid, and ALA, which is the omega-3 in plants. And you've only got one conversion pathway, and you've got competition of that conversion pathway. That's the problem for those people that are eating too many plants. One problem. The second problem is, because you've got this competition and you've got a much greater amount of, because if you take a look at the ratio, forget about the ratio, the percentage of fatty acid in pork is much smaller than in plants. In some parts of the pork, it's the same level amount as you would find in beef. It just has a different ratio. So it's irrelevant. The ratio is irrelevant. We tend to have higher amounts, and in the fatty acids inside the food matrix of the animal can't be damaged. They're not like the seed oils. They're not like these other things. It's oxidized PUFA that's the problem, and high deuterium in the actual PUFA that's the problem. So it's not the PUFA itself. And in the animal food, it can't be oxidized in the food matrix, can't be oxidized very well. Why? We don't know. It just can't. And I've actually got the proof where they've actually cooked the damn stuff for 3 hours and you get trace amounts. And even if you cook it for 32 hours, it becomes just charcoal, the fat. It still only increases by above trace levels, and it's similar to where olive oil is in some of these. So which is one of the better of the oils that oxidizes less compared to the others, which are right up here, and olive oil's down here. Well, if you cook meat for the same amount, it's probably about here, just below olive oil, about the same. So olive oil still is worse, and it's not even cooked. And that's 32 hours. I've actually, you just have to look. I've got videos. There's actually a playlist on PUFA, covers everything. Every sort of nonsense about PUFA. It's all basically garbage. It's all, people repeating the same nonsense without any looking at the literature. I've actually looked at the science. All the stuff that actually shows PUFA as being bad, in a sense, is all based on seed oils, plant oil research. It's garbage. Yes, it's going through an oil refinery. It's being damaged severely. Its food matrix structure is completely destroyed. And obviously, you end up with more deuterium, which does damage to your mitochondria. And on the other hand, you also end up with more primary, secondary oxidative products plus aldehydes. And in order for you not to smell the rancidity from those oils, they put these deodorizers, they use deodorizers, and they put certain type of other flavorings and whatever to mask the rancidity. You know, that's what they sell. They're selling poison for profit. So, you know, and when you look, and most of the research and even the rat chow is made up of this stuff. So you can actually take all that research and just throw it in the rubbish bin, because it is not applicable to animal fats or animal PUFA, completely non-related. So you've got to have to look at actual research, you know. And I've got actually research showing, you know, people feeding, inducing cancer in rats, giving them bacon, yes, bacon, processed food, bacon, and the cancer, the colon cancer, is inhibited by the bacon. Okay, so say no more. That is a reverse causality. Reverse causality means that whole hypothesis is not busted, fisted, completely and utterly destroyed. So we need to realize there's a lot of nonsense out there. But as Bradford Hill would say, with his Bradford Hill criteria, in the way you analyze data, you know, if you find an inverse association, there cannot be causality related to that, because for the simple reason, you cannot have causality unless you have, under every circumstance, you have association. The moment there is a reverse association or a reverse mechanistic, you know, experimental evidence showing a reverse situation, a reverse causality, or a reverse association, that whole hypothesis is, as the Romans would say, busted, my dears, busted. So don't worry about pork. I love pork, and if you take a look, most of the longevity people have been eating pork for thousands of years. So even chimps, even monkeys, even chimps hunt pork, little piglets. We've been eating pork since the Stone Age. Not now, since the Stone Age. And porks eat everything because they're garbage collectors. They'll eat anything, you know, those animals. And we've been consuming them for a very, very long time. You know, even our common ancestor, if you were, you know, so all that sort of stuff. So it's ludicrous, nonsense, garbage. Anyway, let's move on. But do check out my PUFA playlist, and you'll get a lot of information that will demystify and blow a massive hole in all that nonsense that you've been fed by a whole lot of other crackpots out there, and there are plenty of them that don't look at the literature, but they just regurgitate the same old paleo nonsense and everything else under the sun.